Narcissistic abuse, the trauma bond, and operant conditioning. Believe it or not, without knowing it, a pathological narcissist uses a technique that's actually employed in training dogs. The term that's popularised on NARCTalk and elsewhere in these communities is actually intermittent reinforcement, but that comes from operant conditioning. Operant conditioning was a term coined by a man called B.F. Skinner and his work in behavioural psychology. Operant conditioning makes use of what E.L. Thorndike referred to as the law of effect, which states that any behaviour which results in pleasurable consequences is likely to be repeated. So, if you reward a dog for doing something that you want it to do, it's more likely to do it again. Okay? Now, there's a little bit of terminology that we need to get through, so just bear with me. We need to think about fixed and variable, and ratio versus interval. If you want to get this, draw a cross on a piece of paper like that and put fixed and variable here, and then put, what was it? Oh yeah, interval and, oh shit, damn it, interval and ratio. Okay, you'll see there are 4 different combinations, right? Now, we really only need to learn and understand one of these combinations, so let's get to it. Actually, it's kind of 2. Let's learn the difference between, oh shit. We actually only need to learn the difference between one of these things, but it's kind of 2. So, we need to learn the difference between a variable ratio schedule of reinforcement and a fixed variable. No! These are basically schedules of reinforcement, and we only really need to understand 2 of them. One is the fixed ratio schedule of reinforcement, and the other is the variable ratio schedule of reinforcement. Got it out! Now, the ratio is all about whether you do or don't reward the behaviour. So, for example, with a fixed ratio, every 5, maybe, or every 6 times the dog actually sits, you'd give them a reward. It's fixed. However, if you vary everything, then it's variable. And it's sort of random. The dog doesn't really know what's going on. But Skinner found that with a variable ratio schedule of reinforcement, dog would try harder and would remember to sit for longer. I don't mean they'd sit for longer periods of time. I mean long after, you could come back and ask the dog to sit and they'd still do it. It was termed that the bond between stimulus and response and reward was the most resistant to extinction. Extinction is just a posh word for saying that the behaviour dies off, that link between the stimulus saying sit and then the dog actually doing it. So, take a breather, okay? How does this apply? Here's the actual payoff. As a narcissist descends into the devaluation phase and comes away from the idealization, one of the first things they do is they withhold from the person. Everything the narcissist was actually providing in the beninging, well, they're not doing that anymore. They've sort of taken it away. And occasionally, randomly, they give it back. This leaves the poor victim trying to crack the code, trying to work out how to consistently get this nice person that we met at the beninging back. The victim will go to the narcissist for a hug to see how they've been and how their day's been, and they'll be shunned. This will happen again and again and again. And they'll be roused too. And then out of the blue, they'll come into the room smiling and they might give you a kiss. And you're left really confused. You don't know what to do. You're glad this person's being nice to you again, but there's this kind of underlying fear because where did they go? Not only that, but some of the things they did and said were extremely hurtful. This means the victim tries harder. This means the victim doesn't understand what's going on. This means that long after the relationship has ended, there is a bond that is extremely resistant to extinction. We know it as the trauma bond. I hope that helps. I hope it provides some clarity. Okay? Bye for now.